Welcome to Season 2, Episode 16 of the Me and ADHD podcast. This podcast has basically gone from being a little bit of a therapy session just for myself to a platform for other ADHDers to have a voice and share certain aspects of their own story. Today's conversation is with Jon Russell. Like myself, Jon is late diagnosed last year. And has been navigating this realization. He's a family man, married to his wife Katie, and has two daughters, Esme and Tilly. So welcome, Jon.
Hello, how you doing? You okay?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, all right, thanks. We finally got there.
With
two ADHDers trying to navigate a calendar, it's a recipe for disaster.
Yeah, it's very classic ADHD, our conversations and getting this organised, I think. It's just, even to the point where I've been sitting here going, where is he? And then forgetting actually we've changed the time to a little bit later. It's like, oh, okay.
Classic.
Cool. Right. I mean, on the podcast, we normally talk about one highlighted topic of each guest story. But today we're going to be spicing it up and we're going to go for two because that's just how we roll. To kick off the conversation, we're going to be talking about RSD. And RSD is rejection sensitive dysphoria, for those of you who do not know. And this is when we tend to feel very severe and often debilitating emotional pain due to rejection or criticism, or perceived rejection or criticism. It doesn't have to be real at all. It's not exclusive to people with ADHD, and it can affect anyone, but more so with people with ADHD and autism. And it's a component of emotional dysregulation, I'll get my words out, which is when we struggle naturally to regulate our emotions. We can have mood swings, emotional outbursts, and it's due to the size and activity levels of certain areas of the brain, such as the amygdala and the prefrontal cortex. Now, as far as I'm aware, there's not one kind of reason why this RSD occurs, but the thoughts are from like past experiences, things like bullying, neglect, abuse, and as late diagnosed ADHD, I remember many years, decades of being told negative comments, you're wrong, not good enough, all these type of things. So it's not that surprising that we generally do suffer with this quite a bit, and it's quite I guess rife through ADHD community. So, Jon, how long have you been sort of having these feelings of rejection and everything?
I didn't really realise that RSD was a thing until probably about 4 months ago, maybe.
Okay.
It kind of really just helped me to understand things that have happened in the past and why potentially I'm suffering from it now. So I think the main key event, and I obviously don't mind talking. I'm quite an open book, as you'll kind of gather. I think my relationship with my father is basically non-existent. He's an alcoholic, and I think he's still alive. I'm not 100% sure, but I think he is. When I just came out of university, we were kind of still in contact a bit, but not a lot. I think I was 21 or 22 at the time or something. And I rang him to speak to him, and I said, "Hi, it's Jon," and he said, "Sorry, I don't know a Jon. Put the phone down." So from that moment onwards, I think I started to realise that to stop myself from being hurt like that again, just not to allow myself to get into situations like that. And obviously that was, completely, out of the blue. I didn't expect it coming. Yes, maybe I hadn't spoken to him in a while, but I am his son.
Yeah.
So it's even to the level where, like you mentioned, my two daughters at the intro, like they know that I have a father, they know his name, but they don't have anything to do with him whatsoever. And that's kind of out of choice, really, by me as a protective father.
Yeah.
But the negative side of it for me that happens quite regularly is that I beat myself up about whether or not I'm being a good dad or not. Now, I don't know whether or not that's an ADHD thing, but it's been a lot better recently. But and that came with the realization where I was trying to be polar opposite from him, and being polar opposite from him is exhausting. We've all got flaws, and just to accept those, basically.
Yeah, we absolutely got to accept our flaws and work with what we've got, so to speak. We are going to make mistakes as fathers. We are. No one's perfect. It's going to happen. As much as, if you're ADHD and you've got ADHD kids as well, I mean, you could say, I should know exactly what to do because we're all the same. Well, we're not all the same. And you're not going to know exactly what to do because everyone's different, and things play on us in different ways, so just concentrate on being you, to be fair, and that's all you can do.
Yeah.
But it's that's a harsh story. I'm sorry you had to go through that, but it's something that things like that in the past do come back to. I say come back. Sometimes they just don't go away. They're always there.
Yeah.
To haunt us and I guess push us in certain directions in life. Your choices that you make and things like that as well.
And I think also, like I've noticed more recently, especially after I've been diagnosed with ADHD, that there's a school of thought where ADHD is genetic, potentially, and I look at his behaviour and I wonder if he is also either has ADHD or is autistic potentially, and that's not excusing his actions, but it might help me kind of understand that, understand his character a little bit better. But I've got to the point where I just can't let him in. Sometimes I do want to. That's being very honest, but I think weighing things up, it's just that side was always chaotic. It was always unpredictable. It was always full of irresponsible actions. It's not. I don't want to expose my wife to that. I don't want to expose my kids to that. And I think if I did do that, it would be a very selfish thing. And yeah, I've come to terms with that, really.
So how does that, I mean, on a day-to-day basis, I guess, with regards to the RSD, I mean, are there certain things that triggers it in you, and how do you feel? What goes on?
Yeah. So I've had quite extensive counselling as well, prior to my late diagnosis, and one of the things that came up with there is the concept of shame. And I've got this thing where if someone touches on something that is really quite core to how I'm feeling, I don't know if you get it, but I get this feeling in my stomach, like it's a physical reaction to something that someone is saying, that it's resonating with me. And when he talked about that, that really resonated with me. So it's like an inadequate situation. So, and it will normally be something where I have misunderstood something, or I have I feel like I've done something to create that situation.
Okay.
And I see that with my daughter as well. So my daughter has been diagnosed with dyslexia. We are starting to think there may be other things going on there as well. But I've noticed that she can be very quick to being emotional and upset when you say to her, sorry, I didn't understand that. I didn't understand you. To her is very triggering. So I have to rephrase what I'm saying so that it doesn't upset her, but conveys the fact that I didn't particularly understand what she was saying. And, we need to talk about it in a bit more detail. So I think also with RSD is that my wife's amazing. Like we've been together for a long time. Been together for about 12, I want to get this right, 13 years, something like that this year. We both of us are very much on the same wavelength when it comes to, lots of different things, kind of parenting right the way through to, kind of how our kids are educated, right the way through to, our beliefs, etc. But I do know that it's very difficult for her when I get in that kind of RSD frame of mind, because she is trying to help me. She is trying to find a way to de-escalate that situation.
Yeah.
And I can talk about this with you quite easily, but yet when I am in that moment of RSD, now that I know it's RSD, it's like everything else is superfluous to what's going on. And I can't really seem to easily talk myself out of it.
Yeah.
So if I can't do that myself, it must be very difficult for my wife to do that. A couple of things I have noticed recently that really do help is trying to find some dopamine from somewhere. That's always handy. And one of those is listening to music. So I'm into music in a big way. And just like getting in the car and putting the music on it's like a really quick change of environment and dynamic that can normally pull me out of how I'm feeling.
Cool. That's good. I mean, I think knowing how to get out of it, how to change things around, is a big thing, because it can take a long time to do that. It's one of the worst things about my ADHD and my life. It's just been rife right from the get-go. But it can last for hours, days, weeks, and sometimes over something that's really kind of minor.
Yeah, trivial. Yes.
Yeah, a lot.
I see. So I've got an analogy about that one. So I think what happens is that our brains are wired in such a way that our life is like peaks and troughs, right? A lot of the day, a lot of the time, and so the RSD happens at the peak of that wave kind of thing. And it can be something quite small. It can be something big as well, but it usually is something small that just tips us over that edge. So one other thing that I'd noticed, I always take my girls and my wife to work and school most mornings. And sometimes I was getting in the car and I was like, yeah, I'm in the middle of something here. I'm like flustered, and Katie will say to me, what's going on? What's up? Are you okay? It was because I found when we go out the house, by the front door, everyone's getting their shoes and coats on and stuff, and it's quite chaotic
Yeah.
and I struggle in that situation. It sounds very minor. It does sound minor, but it impacts me to the point where I get in the car and then I'm really, really quiet. I'm not really talking to anyone. Katie's asking me how I'm doing. The girls are wondering what's going on. So all I really, really simple is I take my shoes and I either go and put them on in the kitchen or don't put them on by the front door. And that was it. Now that, to me, if I heard someone saying that, I would think, wow, that's a bit ridiculous. But it's like, it's finding those spaces that cause the RSD or cause an outburst,
Yeah.
and mitigating against them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, absolutely. Because our brains, how they are, we are going to be susceptible to it, because that's just how it is, really. But knowing when it can happen, and what you can do about it makes a big difference. I mean, you can't look at every scenario, because sometimes you don't know what people are going to say, or how someone's going to act, or whatever, or how you're going to feel in a certain situation. But where you can, like I said, take yourself away. Trying to reframe it in your head. Whatever works. Use it. Before I got diagnosed, I tried to explain it to my wife, and it just doesn't come out right. All the little things. It's really hard to explain.
Yeah.
But now I know, and I know about it. I've been diagnosed, and I know about it. I've done a lot of research. That doesn't stop it from happening. However, now there's a little thing on my shoulder saying to me, okay, yeah, you're not feeling great right now, but what you're going through isn't real.
What's going through your head? I don't have that yet.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't have that. I don't have that self-awareness level. I don't think, not yet. It's getting there, but it's not there yet.
It takes time. I mean, I think everyone's different. I'm not suggesting that everyone has that, or they should have that, or I might be explaining it wrong, to be honest with you. Who knows? But it doesn't stop me from feeling that way. But I find when I can get to the point where I can think about it logically, that I can pull myself out quicker.
Yeah.
So rather than going through days of it, I'll go through maybe half an hour of it, or you know what I mean? So it is a lot quicker. It doesn't stop me from getting there, but I come out a lot quicker and go, actually, this is rubbish. Crack on with your day, Darren. But yeah, it's a toughie, and a lot of people struggle with it, and like you said, it's not always someone sort of rejecting you or commenting on you. It's being in that situation where you feel you should be doing better. You should be able to cope with this. And there's other people. What are they going to be thinking about me not being able to do this? And you think about what they might be thinking, although they're not thinking about anything, and you kind of then go over and concentrate about, you kind of, I guess, reject yourself. I don't like this. This is not me. I hate it. I'm not any good. You go back to, previous years and decades of like, okay, well, what they said about me or how they made me feel is true, kind of thing. Takes you back. And that's hard to deal with.
Yeah.
But okay. So are there any other triggers that you can think of that you...
I can sometimes get quite frustrated if I don't know something quite quickly. So like if I struggle with like a concept, and this could be at work and it could be outside of work, I will quite often like just keep going until I understand, rather than holding my hands up and saying, actually, I don't know, I don't understand, and I need some help. I'm definitely getting better at it. But yeah, I can I can, like, sometimes, yeah, it can be a work thing, can be a not work thing. I quite like to challenge myself in a technical way. And then as soon as, like, for instance, during lockdown, I did a reaction channel on YouTube, and it was never about like the viewers or anything. All it was really about was about me trying to get the setup right from a technical point of view, so that the content was good and people could, understand what I was doing. And yeah, I kept doing it. I was doing it quite a lot, doing it most lunchtimes, basically. Not really taking a notice of the numbers or anything like that. And then I got to this point where I realized, oh, it's working exactly how I want it to work now. And I got a bit bored with it and I stopped. And if I look at that reaction channel, there's like, I've got like over 1,000 subscribers, which was not too bad. And my top like 5 or 10 videos have got over 8,000 views. But I think in a neurotypical mind, probably I would have thought, well, let's continue that because that's quite successful. But the success for me was the technicalities around it to get it up and running in the first place. And then once I'd done that, that's it. I don't need to do it anymore.
It's an interesting world being neurodiverse, I guess.
Yeah.
This is trying to explain things to someone who isn't is quite hard, because things make sense, so much sense in your head. Yeah. But you can feel them going, what?
Yeah, that's why I never have that conversation with someone who works in marketing, because they'd be like, "What? Why did you stop? Why?"
Oh dear. So when you got diagnosed, how did you deal with that? Is it something that helped you at all, or?
That's a really good question. So I was really lucky to start. I want to say that I was really lucky to start off with. Like, I worked at a company where they had a really strong neurodivergent workforce. They had a group of people. It was called the Squirrel Club, where anyone who was neurodivergent could be a member, or allies of neurodivergent people could be a member. And it was a safe space, really. And they, as a group, campaigned internally for our private medical insurance to be added to the neurodiverse pathway. Okay. So you could get basically tested as part of your private health insurance.
Oh, that's good.
I think it was one of the first companies in the UK that actually offered that. And so, yeah, I was just kind of like, just on my computer. I had like a couple of really close friends at that job, and they, we were talking about it. I'd already joined the group because I felt myself being an ally to people, and I felt like I connected with them. And then I remember having a conversation with this lady, Amy, and she's like, "Have you thought about maybe getting assessed?" And I was like, "Really?" And I was like, "No, not really." As I'm sitting there fiddling with something, or kind of like moving something on my hair, or I was always fidgeting. And she kind of explained all of those kind of things. And then I spoke to my wife. My wife's like, "Well," I'm like, "Hold on a second. How come you've never mentioned this before?" So I went and did it. It was a very simple process, really. And from the initial phone call to diagnosis was 4 weeks.
Okay.
So I got seen by a psychiatrist. We went through kind of like screening questionnaires, and her diagnosis was that I had mixed inattentive and hyperactive ADHD. I didn't go down the medication route, but I am possibly revisiting that, because I think over the last couple of months I've noticed that it's it might be something that I need to look at. So that has been, and again, that was actually quite an impressive experience, because obviously you hear horror stories about shortages and the waiting lists and stuff, but my GP said, it's a 6-month waiting list for titration. You've already got the diagnosis privately. We accept that, we understand that, and we recognise it. So just have to wait until probably April before that can start. So yeah, we'll see what happens. Yeah.
Cool. Okay. That's good. Yeah, I mean, yeah, medication is not for everyone, but when it works, it's great. The one thing I say to people is, when it comes to social media can be good because there's not a lot of information we can readily, get from the medical field, regarding, ADHD. So you have to go find it out ourselves, and social media has been okay. I wouldn't go to social media regarding medication, because all you see is the two poles, how bad it is for you and how amazing it is, and it's like, okay, this it feels like there's not a lot of reality going on regarding it.
And I feel like that's like, I think that those polar opposites are what's wrong with the world in general, I think, at the moment. You're either on one side or the other, but everything is much more nuanced than that. Everything is much more, there might be parts of this that are okay, and there might be parts of that might be okay, but I'm not going to choose one camp or the other. I mean, I find that whole, I mean, that's a completely different conversation, but I find that whole polarization of society very, very odd.
It is.
Yeah.
It is. There's a lot of grey in the middle, what needs to be worked out and looked at and things like that. It's not really, most things aren't as straightforward as, this way or that way.
Yeah.
So some are, but, a lot are not.
Yeah.
But, good luck with the titration and all that.
Thanks.
The one good thing about the medication, besides it, it can work and it's really good, is that you don't have to be on it all the time.
Yes.
Like antidepressants, where you have to then, it takes a while to kick, the stimulant versions of the ADHD medication, I should say, that it will kick in straight away. As long as you get to the right dose, it will kick in straight away. And, you can have weekends off. I'm on like quick, immediate release. So I take it twice a day. So might have some certain evenings or certain mornings I just don't take it because I don't need it. And you can do that, which you can't do with things like with antidepressants and stuff like that. And you can just stop taking it, and it's, generally fine. I mean, your symptoms will all come flushing back and all that, but it's one of those things you got to give it a go and see what works for you. And a lot of people try different medications until they find the one that's good for them and the right dose. And but yeah, I love mine.
Nice. What do you take?
I'm on dexamphetamine.
Okay.
Or Amphexo is the trade name, I think, for it. I was on Ritalin before, and that worked for about 8 or 9 months, and then it stopped working.
Okay.
So we swapped it, and it's good for what I want it to do. It helps keep me calmer for longer.
Okay.
I get very overstimulated and overwhelmed. So and I struggle with that, and I can get really frustrated with it and everything. Yeah. But on medication, I can last a lot longer before I start to feel irritable and things like that. My focus is a lot better.
When you say focus, do you mean like a broad focus? Because with me, I get hyper focused on stuff.
Yeah, it's quite well, both really. I mean, my hyper focus is really good at the moment, which I never realised about it. But I mean, like, I'm really inattentive. I'm predominantly inattentive. I'm not hyperactive. So I've never read a book before. I can read now.
Wow.
You know,
Okay.
because I can remember what I've read, basically. Even little small things like the news articles and stuff like that, I don't read or
Yeah.
didn't read beforehand, because there's no point, because I can't remember what I've just read. You know, I
Yeah.
can't remember the
That's
sentence
interesting.
rather than the page. I can't remember the sentence that I've just read, but now I can. So now I'm on, I think, my fifth book now, and
Wow.
it's,
Yeah.
and I think that's brilliant. So yeah, and my working memory is a lot better.
Okay.
And those are the things, especially the being overwhelmed, the controlling that and being calmer. That's key for me. If it didn't do that, then I wouldn't take them. No point.
Right. Right.
But for me, I needed that. So as long as it keeps on helping me with that, I'll keep on the medication. But it depends on everything, what else in your life, It doesn't help with everything. It does
Mm.
help with to decrease impulsivity and the hyperactiveness, But then again, if that's not a big issue for you, then it's not gonna, you
Yeah.
know. So see what works for you, and if it makes a difference, crack on with it. If it
Yeah.
doesn't, because
Yeah.
there are side effects as well, and I think most people get side effects. Most of them will last only like a couple of weeks, but some will keep lasting, keep all the way through. But it's, can you put up with it,
Yeah.
kind of
Yeah.
thing, compared to what it's doing, for in your life. With mine at the moment, with this medication, I get very sort of dry mouth, which is a weird feeling.
Yeah.
Really weird feeling. It just feels like I've just got like a towel and I've just wiped my gums and my teeth and the end of my tongue, and it's just, my lips is just dry. So not like sort of not kind of like dry and crusty kind of dry, but just literally just got rid of all the
Right.
moisture,
Right. Right.
and it's just a really weird feeling. But I'll put up with that because of the benefits I get out of it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But if I'm having bad tummy ache all the time, or if it gave me migraines, I don't know if it gives you migraines or not, but if it gave me migraines, it wouldn't be worth it. So it
Mm.
depends
Mm.
on, it's a balancing scales really. What can you put up with depending on what you get out of it. But
Yeah. Yeah.
so, but yeah, okay. We digressed a little bit.
Yeah.
That's
We
a
did
weird.
a bit.
That's weird for a couple of
Yeah.
ADHDers talking. Did we actually talk about the topic? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah. We did. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. The second topic we're talking about today, self medication, and again, for people who don't know, self medication is basically dealing and treating the symptoms yourself of whatever you're going through, without any sort of medical guidance or backing or anything like that at all. And it could be with anything, but when we talk about self medication, a lot of the time it's because it's with hard drugs, alcohol, nicotine, but it could be with food or exercise as well. So now you have self medicated
Yeah.
previously, yeah. So when it comes to that, was it a conscious decision to, I'm going to self medicate, I want this to go away, or was it you kind of did whatever it was anyway and then worked out, actually this is helping my head?
Yeah. So probably the latter.
Yeah.
So I think it, not initially, definitely not initially. So but basically, and I don't mind talking about it on here. Basically, I was drinking too much, really. Yeah, and it wasn't. It never really impacted me in a work sense or anything like that. But it was just like, it was like every other night, sometimes a bit more than that. And beers, lager, basically. And yeah, it effectively took the edge off of what I call my whirring brain.
Yeah.
So during the day, completely fine, completely focused, pretty focused on what I'm doing. And then I get to like 5 o'clock or something, and my brain just doesn't want to switch off. So I worked out eventually that having a beer did stop that. It also, in my mind, helped me go to sleep. It helped me sleep earlier. But I was still waking up quite early, and I've now kind of come to the conclusion that actually I can probably operate on like 4 to 5 hours sleep a night rather than 8. And now that I'm basically an all or nothing person. I've noticed this in so many different things. This is one of them. It got to January the 1st. I'd had a talk with my wife. She was concerned about it as well. And I just decided that, going to knock it on the head. So I haven't had any alcohol since New Year's Eve.
Okay.
And I seem to be all right about it. I mean, there are days sometimes where I think, oh, I'd love a beer, but I'm not going there. Yeah. And I think it will be probably for the foreseeable future, I think. And especially if I do get onto medication, I don't think the alcohol and medication is going to mix anyway. Nope. So, yeah. So I think, the grand scheme of things, it's a good choice.
Cool. Good.
And the fact that I'm talking about it, the fact that I'm telling people about it, I don't know if you get this with ADHD, but quite often, if someone gives me permission to do something, it's like I'm enabled to do it. So that sounds really, even when I say it, it sounds really weird.
No, I get it.
But I feel like, me and my wife had this conversation. She was concerned about it. I was like, right, okay, I do need to do something about it. And so I just cut it out. Now I'm not going to sit here and say that I'll never, ever, ever have a beer again. I don't know that. I would like to think that's the case, because of, the health benefits, etc. And like we talked about, going on medication. But yeah, at the moment it's going really well, and I do feel a lot better for it. I'm getting out on my bike. I'm, being a bit more healthy. Yeah, it's good. Yeah,
that's good. But I say, the going out on the bike and doing exercise, is meant to help. To calm the head and everything as well. It's what, again, it's like anything. Doing too much can be obviously detrimental to your health. But when you look at things, when you do the research, I guess, and look at the different kind of strategies you can put in place, and there's strategies all over the place, all areas of ADHD. When you start putting things in place, you can really do see the difference. Then the struggle is to make sure that you remember to put things in place. Because you've got the organizational issues and the memory issues as well. But
see, that's an interesting one. The organisation things. That's something I've always been really kind of anal about. And actually, what came up with a psychiatrist was that she basically said, "Well, that's like your kind of it's like your kind of mask." So, I'm masking by being organised.
Yeah.
To the point where, I've got notebooks coming out my ears here. If I don't write something down, I can quite easily forget it quite quickly. I've got 4 diaries, as we know when we tried to arrange talking the first time. It's not lost on me that's quite funny that didn't happen properly. But I'm overly organised, and I think it's just it's a thing, and it's been like that for as long as I can remember, really.
No, I'm completely with you on that one. I'm exactly the same. My when I look at that, I feel that mine comes down from the RSD aspect. I hate letting people down.
Yeah.
And through work, it was, I'm forgetting to do certain things I've been asked to do. And over the years, not even thinking about ADHD at all, just I've been like this for about 20 years, I guess. 20 odd years, and started off with I'm gonna get a diary, I'm gonna write it all down in the diary. I mean, which is great, but because you don't have a diary with you all the time, it started to fail. So but I put everything now in on my phone, and I do it straight away.
Yeah.
And I've set alarms straight away, and all these reminders, and I know I always have my phone with me. I guess it's the reason why it works for me, because it's not just because I have a phone and I like to have it with me. I have my phone with me all the time.
Yeah,
I don't really know why, but it's with me.
Yeah.
I go anywhere, it's in my pocket, in my hand.
Yeah.
And
it's a nightmare when you lose it, right?
Where is it? But it's all there. So I am actually really organised, but I'm only organised because of this strategy I've put in place.
Yes.
If I lose my phone or it gets broken, I'm not organised at all. I'm forgetting pretty much, I'm going to forget everything. And as my wife sort of knows now, and I think my parents know now, if I haven't put it in my phone, you haven't told me anything.
Yes.
It's as simple. If it's not on my phone, you didn't tell me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
So it's so yeah, and I kind of did it from that, and it just and when I can remember when I went for my assessment, I said about organisation, and I was like, I don't know how to answer this, because I am really organised, but I'm really organised because I'm not really organised.
Yes.
I'm like, I don't know, how should I answer it? So I explained what I do and why I do it, and then we sort of deciphered what where we were going with it and what it all meant. So, but yeah, so it's. I can't even remember how we started this conversation, to be honest with you. So, it's, all right, okay.
Yeah, I know.
Now I'm kind of like, did I press record on this? Oh yeah, I did. That's fine. I did that on one. I know we digress again. I did that on one podcast right at the very beginning in season 1. We had to start having a conversation. We're 10 minutes into it. I was like, I've got to stop you there. I haven't pressed record. Oh dear.
Yeah, brilliant.
So sometimes the organisation doesn't really work. It wasn't in my phone, so
yeah.
Okay, so you talked obviously the alcohol that you were having. Was there anything else at all, or is it just the alcohol?
No, it was just that, really. Yeah.
And how did you your wife said, sorry, you said that your wife obviously thought it was becoming a problem as well. So in what way, how does that manifest?
Going back to, looping it back to my dad again.
Yeah.
Like he's an alcoholic, and I'm not going to lie, there was a part of me in my head that thinks, maybe not that I was, but it's a slippery slope, right? And I've got 2 young kids, and it kind of, me trying to be the best dad I can be, and then drinking is probably not the right mix. Not really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes you have to have these light bulb moments, and to really sort of connect the dots to make it make sense.
Yeah.
But fair play for you for stopping, and then sort of putting other things into play to.
And also talking about it. That's the other thing. I think I was trying to get to that bit, but we went off on a tangent. But that's fine. But I think telling people about it, like I've told close friends that I've, I'm not drinking anymore, and there's that accountability.
Yes. Yeah.
Which is a massive thing. I've got a friend called Mike who I actually run a podcast with. It's to do with kind of like technical things and more to do with our work. But he and I are kind of like each other's accountability partner. So I will tell him, this is what I'm going to do, and he kind of keeps me honest. So yeah, that's really good. Yeah.
No, that's excellent. Again, another strategy putting in place, and it's working. So
yeah.
No. That is really good. I mean, how long were you self-medicating for?
Don't know. Over a year, I'd say.
Okay.
Mm.
No, that's cool. Okay.
Yeah.
So that's again still quite a long time to then just stop. But you're making, real good progress and all that. And I say you've
Yeah,
got
I mean,
things in
it
place.
is strange, and I think that I think that's an ADHD trait, that I'm an all or nothing, all or nothing. It's
Yeah.
like there's no middle ground, there's no real grey area,
Yeah.
and I think it comes down to, like, my mum used to call me Mr. Moral, right? Because I was like always black and white. There was never any real grey area. I mean, now there are some grey areas in my life, but that's just life, and that's how it is. But I think if I do set myself something, I do tend to stick to it, and I do tend to probably overanalyze or overthink in that area to get to where I need to go. It's hard to explain sometimes. Yeah, but I think there is definitely an element of that. Like, it's an all or nothing thing. Going back to the YouTube reaction thing, that was all or nothing. I was, doing loads, perfecting it, trying to work out what works technically and what doesn't. And then as soon as I got to the point where it was all done, I was like, right, okay, that's it, fine, and I stopped. Like, literally, as soon as I'd got to the bit where I thought, okay, that's my best video, next day I didn't do it anymore. It's crazy. Yeah.
I say it's an interesting life being ADHD. One of the things I find hard to grasp is that we get diagnosed for our hyperactivity, our inattentiveness, impulsivity. They're the key elements we get, assessed and diagnosed with. But in most cases, those aren't the things that we struggle with. There's a whole plethora of, sort of other mental health issues, and there's a lot of things that can come with it.
It comes back to that nuance point again,
Yeah.
I think, because actually, if you think about it, that's quite a polar opposite scale: hyperactive or inattentive.
Yeah, it's like, now, I'm putting this thing out about some sort of bad parenting, doesn't create ADHD, and it's like, you can tell me as much as you want about, how I should concentrate more. Okay.
Yeah.
I've been trying to concentrate more for 50 years. Okay. It doesn't work that way. I can't. I wish I could, but I can't. I can sit here, because I'm not hyperactive. I can sit here and look at the screen or look at a page, and I can really give it my best shot. But my head is going all over. But that's not what's struggling. That's not making me struggle in my life. I can't concentrate. No, it's the depression, the RSD, and all that comes from that. My education wasn't great. I've been told that I'm useless. I should try harder. All these other things that create depression, anxiety, the RSD, the rumination of your past life, which then adds to your struggling to get to sleep. So all these things that we really actually feel, and the things that make us cry at night, the things that make us feel so bad about ourselves, are not the things that we get diagnosed with or assessed for. And that's a shame, because all the things we get sort of assessed for are the things that other people feel about us.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's like that word that I really don't like is when workplaces say, what accommodations can we give you for being neurodivergent or whatever. And it's like, you're accommodating me into a neurotypical world. Do you see what I mean? I don't particularly like the word accommodation. I think there should be a better way of phrasing it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think we still got quite a long way to go in this kind of in this world at the moment. We're talking about neurodivergency, we're talking about ADHD, and it's good to talk. It's so good to talk. But there's still a lot of things that people need to grasp hold of, and how we can move forward, and what it all means. And actually, some of the things they think is huge, it actually isn't huge. And some of the things that people think is only a little thing actually is a big thing. So there's still a lot of, sort of working out what's what, but it comes down to the conversation. So we got to keep talking.
Yeah.
Because everyone's experience of ADHD is a little bit different. I mean, we sit in here and we have this automatic kind of acceptance, because we've got the lived experience. We know we've done the research as well, obviously, because that's what we do.
Yes.
So when we have to change things at the last minute, because we've overbooked, or we've double booked, or we've actually forgotten, or we sit at the wrong time when someone's coming on, and we digress when we're away from the actual topic. That is it. This is us. Okay.
Yeah.
We don't have to really kind of explain. We just crack on with it, and that's just how it I think it should be. Don't worry about it. We just accept and sort of be okay with it. And I think that's the way forward. I don't know. I'm rambling.
No, it's good. I totally agree. Yeah.
I tell you what, mate. I mean, it's been really nice having you on here, and have this conversation. The conversations that we had we can go on forever, for a long time, talking about sort of each area. But it's nice to start the conversation, and for you to be here, telling your story, and your kind of your lived experience of those areas, and this is what it's all about. People coming on, and it's your experience. It's not me telling you how you should feel. It's you telling everybody else what you've gone through, and and how you feel about things, and it's having that kind of platform to do that, and for more people to come and do that, for everyone to be comfortable to be able to talk.
Yeah, and I really appreciate the opportunity. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great. It's great having you on. It's been lovely having you on. At last.
At last. Yeah.
But no, it's been great, mate. Seriously, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story with us.
No problem. Thank you.
And thanks everyone for listening. It's something, like I said, we need to talk about. We need to keep talking. Don't be afraid to talk about it. Don't be afraid to ask questions. Everyone's got a story. No matter what you see, no matter what you hear and who you come across, everyone has a story. So it's always nice to talk about it. It's always nice to ask questions, because sometimes people do want to talk. Sometimes if you ask questions about it, sometimes people just feel heard and they feel seen and relevant, and somebody wants to know, someone's interested in them. So yeah, that's the way forward, guys. And I thank you for keep listening, and I thank you for the comments that you make and things like that on the podcast, and I thank all the guests for coming on as well, because without you guys coming on sharing your stories, this podcast wouldn't be here anymore. So, but as always, guys, I'm rambling. So always, guys, be good, be kind, and remember, you're not alone. Thank you.